Hi there, it's Christopher Cooper, beverage manager from Chef Middle East, and we're here for Culinary Canvas at the Lowe Restaurant. And we're here to talk to Matt from Antipodes Water to talk about sustainability and how that fits into the restaurant trade. Ah, hey Matt, how you doing?
Amazing, mate.
The Lowe Restaurant, shall we go in?
Let's do it.
Wow, what an amazing restaurant. Hi Zach, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Really great to be here. This is Matt from Antipodes Water.
Hi Matt.
New Zealand.
Absolute pleasure.
So this is the amazing Lowe Restaurant. Tell me about Lowe and the concept behind it.
So I'm the manager here at Lowe, located in Albarari. Lowe was actually awarded the first ever Michelin Green Star in the UAE. And what the Michelin Green Star sort of entails is sustainable gastronomy. Now, we don't particularly know exactly what Michelin will bring us toward that, but I can tell you a little bit about what we do. So we make sure that we work with suppliers that we know where the product is coming from. We're making sure that we don't sort of use any single waste plastic, and we speak with suppliers on how they can get their products to us. Other examples are we recycle everything. We use all our organic waste. We compost it ourselves. And we actually take that compost and add it into our own vegetable garden that the staff gets to use a little bit as well. These are some of the key points that we actually do in Lowe, and there's a lot of other things like how we interact with the community and things that we do with them.
I mean, we love that. Very much fits in with our ethos at Chef Middle East, but also it very much fits in with Antipodes Water as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And great to see you being a customer. Obviously, Antipodes is all about that sustainability message. We were actually the first bottled water company in the world to be carbon zero certified, and that was well over 17 years ago. So well ahead of any trend or sort of fabric or advertising campaign in terms of alignment. I think it's a great partnership that we've ended up forming, and just really proud to see it on the Lowe Restaurant. So on the Lowe Restaurant table, should I say.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're super happy to put it down. We know what the carbon zero means to... It's actually fun to teach our customers when they come in, because a lot of people might not be familiar with a lot of the things that we do or a lot of the customers or suppliers that we work with. And when we can put it on the table and we can proudly say, we work with this company, I've met, Matt, and this is what he stands for, and we can explain a little bit why we've wanted to be with you.
Yeah, so I'll just talk to you a little bit more about some of the actual sustainability messages that are going on in the background that maybe not everybody would understand. But Antipodes has been around now for 20 years. And in terms of that piece, we only bottle to order. And again...
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, you do. Obviously, we are coming a long way over here, all the way from New Zealand. And we've got a very special sauce in the sense that it's a single bottle, single source mentality. So we don't contract hack. We don't offer the Antipodes water for any other beverages. Literally, the only way you can get Antipodes water is in that bottle, because we actually believe it's just a really special entity in its own right. It's risen up from the surface on its own accord. It's and goes straight into the bottle. So there's absolutely no chemical processing or reverse osmosis or UV filtration. It's just simply not required. So it's a true representation of that terroir of place in beautiful, clean green New Zealand.
But let's talk about where we come from. Zach, who are you and how did you get here and why do you fit into this restaurant?
Wow. Okay. Well, I was born no, I'm kidding. I'm originally Canadian. I actually studied hotel management, so I always was keen about hospitality. Much as we discussed before, I was tending bar and working in nightlife when I was doing my university degree, and then sort of just followed around hospitality my whole career. I was with a very big all-inclusive resort company first, and unfortunately, I've traveled around. I was in Morocco, I was in Mexico, I was in Turks and Caicos, and I saw not that we didn't have sustainable beliefs along the way, but I saw how a big hotel chain can be wasteful. And what's not to do, let's say. And then I moved to Australia, and Australia has a huge, much like New Zealand, belief in sustainability and recycling. And that's when I really started to lean into it, because I didn't want to see what I was seeing in these big hotel chains. And so when I moved to Dubai originally, I found Lowe, and they already had these same beliefs that I had in Australia. And there's sort of a stigma that comes with not particularly UAE, but Dubai, that everything is shiny, everything is new, everything is transient and fast-paced. And to find a restaurant that had sort of the core beliefs that I had and had been building up over these years, one step at a time, a million small steps, not one giant leap, was fantastic. And then I kind of hit the ground running here and haven't looked back, and looking to do as many small steps as possible leading into the future and continue to grow.
Wow. And so amazing. Fantastic. So Matt, how did you fall into the water industry? Shall we say?
Yeah, it's like I probably didn't even know the water industry existed, really, right? It's one of those things that, I sort of fell into, to be perfectly honest. I ended up actually working in the printing industry for almost 12 years. And over that time, I started off as the humble courier boy, and then worked into finishing, and then actually offset printer by trade. And then the final sort of step was sales. And the weird thing is I ended up building quite a rapport, not really knowing that I was going to be a salesperson, really. And ended up sort of gaining these customers that just used to like dealing with me, and they just so happened to be in the hospitality industry. And I really enjoyed that aspect of seeing the industry sort of, constantly evolve and transition. And I found my niche just printing menus for the hospitality industry. So then all of a sudden, I'd kind of reached the end of that journey to some extent. I'd found that I'd learned everything I could possibly know about the printing industry. So I wanted to go out there and test myself. But when you do that transitional period and you know that you've come to the end of the journey with one particular company, you're always on the lookout for like, okay, well, I really enjoy the hospitality sector. How can I work with those people on a more regular basis and continue to focus on them? And the Antipodes gig kind of came up. I have to admit, a really entertaining story was in my job interview, I was actually said Antipodes, and then I was quickly corrected by the GM who was actually interviewing me, and changed it back like midway through the sentence. I still remember it, and I still got the job. So I didn't heard the application. I believe you. I mean, you've only just started.
I mean, I felt somewhat the same. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. When it comes to recruitment and looking at companies and analyzing and finding out, do they have the same core values and beliefs that, and will you enjoy working for them and that sort of. So in my process in joining Chef Middle East was very much a journey of discovery of how they go about doing things, what attention to detail there is, and what is going to be the future and where are we going to be going with it. Very much fitted with my core values, and it takes me all the way back to my university days, shall we say, and sort of it's almost come full circle for me now at Chef Middle East, simply because I travelled to university and went to a university in Perth in Western Australia, and at the time I was studying environmental science. So my degree is environmental science, and it's sort of the conversation today very much fits in with my core values, and it was an area that I felt truly passionate about, and this was back when environmental issues, were kind of still very green and hippie, and I was hanging out with the surfing dudes and all the rest of it.
Surfers in Perth.
Totally. So everybody was just rocking up in their, board shorts or their, wet
hemp board shorts, I'm sure.
Prop the board up and then sit down to lectures. So it was an amazing time, and it was really super fun. However, whilst I was at university, I needed to work, and so I took a job in the local microbrewery. I was working at Sail and Anchor in Fremantle, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a really lovely time. And so that was when you just kind of naturally fall into drinks, if you like. And and I loved the drinks industry, but still very much kept that mentality, that ethos that I've done all the way through my drinks industry career. So having worked in hospitality all the way through Gordon Ramsay Michelin star restaurants through to Soho House and stopgaps at many other places in between. And then having worked for myself for the last 10 years, promoting those values as well in everything that I do, it's been quite an exciting time. But to then bring that mentality to drinks here at Chef Middle East, it's been really, really exciting. And to work with a brand such as Antipodes totally fits in with my core values. And I'm really excited to be able to facilitate this conversation with you both. And so, Zach, how does this fit in with your ethos of sourcing and having these sorts of products within your product range and offerings to the guests?
Great question. Well, we want to make sure that, first of all, in any of the things that we bring into the restaurant, we can say that we know what it is and we're proud of it. And we also want to know that anything that it comes through in, let's say it's the cardboard, let's say it's the packaging, let's say it's the bottle, we obviously do all our own recycling, but we want to make sure that any products and any companies that we work with have the same sort of beliefs as us. Because if we're using our beliefs, but the company that we work with doesn't, and behind closed doors, their practices don't necessarily fall in line with what we believe in, then there's no point, because we can't actually prove to our customers that the people that we work with are practicing what they preach in terms of what we want to do.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic to be able to sit down and have this conversation with Chef Middle East and with Matt from Antipodes, to be able to know we know exactly where it's coming from, so we can share that with our customers when it comes to our water or our oysters that are locally sourced, and we actually return them back to the reef with the Return the Reef project. These are the kind of companies that we want to work with, because it's the people that share the same beliefs with us, not just because it's the fad or it's because COP28 was, last year. It's because it's something that it's a pillar of their ethos and their beliefs of the company.
And it's something that we're very much looking towards doing with Chef Middle East in terms of our responsible sourcing as well. And working with Matt has been amazing to be able to source a clean and green and sustainably sourced product and bring that to you. And so in terms of transference of knowledge from source to the table, that's where we like to sit, and that's obviously why Matt's here, meeting with us and hopefully being able to transfer that knowledge through to the table.
Yeah, and there's some really, exciting things that are starting to take place. I think here in the UAE, one of our main concerns has always been the end of life of our bottle, because of course once we put it on that ship and it gets over here in that most sustainable fashion that we can do, we really want to make sure that it's getting put in the right place afterwards. And so, the fact that there are these recycling schemes out there, where we're starting to look a lot deeper into that with the likes of Chefs Middle East, to really form that partnership and offer a level of support, because I know how painful it can be on getting that end of use cycle complete. So that's a huge part of, again, I love how you're sort of sourcing locally. We do exactly the same thing, in the sense that we actually purchase glass from our only New Zealand glass manufacturer, rather than getting it from overseas or somewhere else. And obviously that means another ship and another container. So we like to get things from as close as possible, and over 60% of which is all recycled New Zealand glass. So it's already had one or two good uses. And obviously the beautiful thing about glass is it's infinitely recyclable. So you can just kind of continue that circular economy as best as possible in this day and age anyway. Maintaining that purity is incredibly important to us, because we do believe it's got that really, perfect sort of combination of mineral content. So it's low in overall minerality and doesn't impact on the palate of obviously your Michelin star restaurant. The dishes that are coming out of here are obviously painstakingly thought out, with the chef and front of house, and even the drinks and beverage list is all very carefully considered. So it's really nice to be able to complement all of those great things that are going on in the restaurant.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said how we had this conversation a little bit off camera earlier, how I tell you that another pillar for what we believe in is to shop as much locally as possible. Now, we understand that sometimes that's not entirely possible, particularly where we are in the UAE. However, people might go, well, New Zealand's quite far. Why are you going with that? But we can actually explain to them that you are carbon zero. And I hear that you actually offset some of it. So when the ship gets sent, you actually do things to offset those costs as well. Is that true?
Yeah, correct. So, of course, it's almost impossible to get anything from anywhere without any level of carbon emission. Look, let's see what happens over the next 10, 20 years. But at this point in time, of course, we do end up creating some sort of carbon footprint. And these are offset by a number of projects, which actually are certification in New Zealand, which is called Toitu certified. So they're the ones that look at the carbon scheme, and they pick out a couple of projects across the globe which help offset those carbon credits. So currently we are funding a regenerative forest in India, and also looking at funding a wind farm in China as a result of those projects. But the crazy thing I think about the carbon certification process in general is the fact that we have to be seen to be reducing our carbon emissions by 30% each year, which becomes increasingly more difficult as time goes on, obviously. So we make really small differences actually have a big impact. We are already on completely renewable energy resource, as actually we're quite blessed in New Zealand in that respect, because a lot of it's just hydro or geothermal. But we are actually looking to do a project with solar panels on our new warehousing as well. So we're actually looking to try and make that transition to be completely off the grid.
So are you finding that there's more of a demand from your clientele with regards to sustainability and with your green Michelin stuff?
So we find a lot with our customers, being in the Michelin Guide and as a green Michelin star, a lot of people don't particularly know, as I mentioned earlier, what a green star means. And so they will come here and they'll be aware that they'll look at the menu online and they'll see the food and they'll sit and they'll eat and they'll enjoy it. But then they'll ask myself or my team, they go, what does the green star mean? And then we start to tell them, like, okay, it's because our work with our suppliers, our work with the community, some of the practices that we do behind closed doors where the guest's eyes don't see. And then it starts to spark an interest in them and they want to learn a little bit more. And then I tell them, come back anytime, I'll give you a walkthrough. We end up showing them our composter, we show them our garden, we show them the suppliers that we work with and why we work with them, why we've chosen to go with Antipodes. And it sparks an interest in them a little bit more. You can see them start to light up and they go, okay, so this just isn't a restaurant. There's a little bit more to it. And they've already had dinner. They've already enjoyed the food. They might already planning on coming back, but then they want to come back to have a bit more knowledge. I'm finding a lot of the consumers and guests and clientele that we have now, particularly in the UAE, are really conscious about this and really want to push to learn more. They're not just happy with sitting back and going, I don't mind where it comes from as long as it lands on my plate. They're actually asking questions and they want to make sure that the people that they're giving their hard-earned money to know the answers.
So conscious eating is becoming much more of a focus amongst your clients.
Drastically in the UAE, I find. I mean, we had COP28 last year. That really was a marketing push for everybody to get involved. We saw a lot of restaurants doing a lot of really cool things and advertising it. I was a little concerned that after COP28, if there wouldn't be any longevity to it, but it's been about 6 months now since COP28, and we were finding that these restaurants are not only still doing these things that they promised they would do, but actually growing onto it. And these are also where brands like Antipodes can come in and put their bottle on there and start to add to the solution as opposed to be part of the problem.
So that fits totally well with your ethos.
Oh, absolutely. Like we're all about, I mean, we've always maintained that, you know, it's a considered product and, you know, it is very much at the heart of what we do at Antipodes. And yeah, in terms of having those conversations at the moment, it's a really exciting time, I think, for the UAE in that transitional period where they are starting to care a lot more than maybe, you know, a year or two ago. I really noticed that. This is my third time to Dubai and I feel like there's big steps every time I come back. We really encourage people to even come visit, you know, in terms of our production facility, because we would love the team to have that connection with the end consumer or the customer. Yeah,
we get a lot of that from suppliers, even for produce from Chef Middle East and others around. They invite us to come to their farms so we can see it firsthand. And I think that's great. Me and the chef will go, and we can have these conversations much like we're having today, or we can speak to the suppliers and really grasp what they're trying to do here. So at the end of the day, if I understand everything, but I can explain it to my customer. If I don't understand, I can't explain it to the customer. So there is that trickling down where the supplier can speak to the restaurant, which then can speak to the guests or consumer, which is an important tunnel that we follow.
It's the dining table where a lot of these sort of conversations happen. And if you've got something as amazing as Antipodes and that sparks conversation, and from yourselves being able to introduce that and have that conversation at the dining table is such an important thing in order of raising awareness. But equally, it's important to have a product that completely represents that. So in terms of the dining experience as well, tell me a little bit more about Antipodes and how it was specifically created for the dining table.
Absolutely. So Simon Woolley is a huge factor in that. So he's our founder, and he spent 20 odd years in hospitality. So it was a big passion of his. He actually transitioned, like a lot of front of house, I think could relate. He started off just in front of house just to get through university or whatever else degree he was on. He was actually on a journey to become a draftsperson at the time. And he fell in love with hospitality. He loved the communication that he had, that he loved the rapport. It's actually part of the reasons that I got involved in this side of the business myself. And it kind of came down to the fact that he wanted something that he was sort of there in the early 2000s in New Zealand, and being in that beautiful kind of location, and some of our produce was starting to get recognized on a global scale. And the wine industry was obviously a huge factor that was coming through as well. And there we were in New Zealand, and we were still pouring water from the other side of the world. And he thought that was sort of a little bit crazy, so off he went, and he went scouring the length of New Zealand looking for this perfect source, it was all about, had to have, some really clean characteristics to the water itself. So he didn't want anything that was actually going to impact on the palate. It's basically that real lower minerality composition, and the fact that it's the main mineral component is silica, and it's actually quite a rare and beautiful mineral to have in water in general. The first thing it adds, first of all, it's the vegan version of collagen, so great for your skin, hair, and nails for sure. So on your beauty tips, and also the beautiful thing about it, it doesn't have any overpowering taste or flavors that come into it. It's completely tasteless, and it just adds a little silkiness to the water.
And considering the whole experience, the whole gastronomic experience is something that we pride ourselves in at Chef Middle East, to consider not just what's on the plate, but also around that. And I think that's something that you very much think about as well, in terms of bringing products and drinks and everything around the table as well.
Yeah, correct. A lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of things that affect hospitality in ways you might not think of. So from the lighting to the music to how comfortable your chair is, it's the same thing. You do a water tasting and you think in your head there's not going to be any difference, but there is once you compare it. And the same sort of thing. I once was told, listen to rock music, have a sip of your wine. Now listen to a softer music and have a sip of your wine. And I just had that same sip of wine 2 minutes apart, but it completely changed the profile of the flavor for me. And it's there's so many little things that go into hospitality or what lands on your table. And you'd wouldn't think that if music is affecting you so much, then definitely the water you're drinking before you eat something is going to have a much bigger impact on that than.
Yeah, the crazy other part I think of that as well is that, that bottle shape is quite unique. It's certainly something a little bit different out there in the market, and it does get us some nice looks, and definitely ends up on Instagram with daisies in it and you name it. But it was actually had a true purpose too, because for Simon, it was all about the restaurant experience. So, when you sit down at a restaurant table, you're there to connect with other people generally, and experience the food, experience the wine. And he just wanted the water on the table to just be that silent little partner, hence why it's a very transparent bottle, so it virtually disappears on a restaurant table, and made sure that it was nice and low on the table, so it wouldn't actually get in the way of the conversation across the table by being, maybe a little bit more standoutish, which I just think is a little method in that madness. We
don't think about it, but there's these subtle things. And now that you mention, I go, oh yes, if I want to hand someone something or have this conversation. It's not a big, tall bottle that I have to push aside. There's the subtle things that go into it that the consumer doesn't even think about, but it affects them in ways that they don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you feel that Antipodes is going to sit well with your clients and your and in respect of the whole dining experience?
I mean, Lowe, we like to call ourselves homegrown and subtle. You know, we have unfinished concrete flooring, we have wooden tables, we cook with fire. So Lowe actually means a low light, usually emit by fire. It's an old Scottish word.
Ooh.
And the reason that it was chosen that way is because we cook with 3 types of fire. So we have our wood fire oven, we have the grill that we use wood fire, and then we have our rotisserie grill as well. And you don't want something that's bold and brash. It's the same. It's back to what you said. When you're eating at a restaurant, you want to have the conversation. You want to have an experience. If I want to eat alone or be quiet, I could sit at home and watch my TV, or I could eat a microwave dinner alone. That's not the point. Like, I can cook a chicken at home, but the point of coming out is for the experience, for it to be. I'm surrounded by people. There's a buzz. There's music I might not have heard before. There's the people that I want to meet. There's the waiter I might become friends with. I've become friends with way too many bartenders here in Dubai. I'll tell you that much. And I think Antipodes just lends itself to it in subtle ways, but also in the back of our head when we start to speak about why we've got the Michelin Green Star, we can describe that as well.
I think all of these are sort of really bigger sort of thought processes, and obviously you mentioned COP28 earlier. It's something that it's in everybody's mind and it's in everybody's focus, and let's hopefully keep that in everybody's mind and everybody's focus, and hopefully the dining table and the restaurant table is an area where we can continue that conversation. So how do you feel that what we're doing now is going to affect the future? You know, are we trailblazers, if you like, in this particular message, or is this a trend that's going to continue forward and everybody's going to be adopting these practices?
I think what isn't really discussed in the UAE particularly that much is there's a lot of venues that are doing a lot of cool things that they don't actually scream out at the top of their lungs. We have some workshops where we talk about sustainability behind the bar, and a lot of these bartenders that are coming in really point out some things that their venues are doing, but no one knows about it. And Antipodes, if it's as old as it is, it might have been a bit more on the forefront than, say, Lowe, who opened in 2019. However, the concept is still there. And I think there has been some trailblazers from the 60s, 70s, but it's really getting louder now. And to have a water brand from New Zealand having the reach that it does, and we're sitting here in Dubai having this conversation because a Michelin Green Star restaurant wants to discuss it and have it on their table because it fits with their beliefs, I think is a testament to how far along we are coming. And with COP28, it was a push, but like I said, there's a lot of restaurants that are pushing it further and further now, and I think the UAE is really going to be in the forefront in the next 10, 15 years.
So Matt, how do you feel that Antipodes is doing what it's doing in terms of the mineral water industry? You guys are real trailblazers.
Yeah, to say that we were the first bottled water company in the world to be carbon zero is something that nobody can ever take away from us. And you know what, we really encourage others to join that journey. It's not like we're sitting there on our own plinth and look at us. We're just doing something that was very much a fabric of who we were as a company at the very beginning. And look, we're not perfect. I don't think anybody can claim to be perfect, but we're on this journey, and we're going to continue to be on this journey for a very long time and encourage others to do the same. So if we can educate people by having it on the restaurant table, we'll be a very happy company, all in all.
I always like to say the sustainability is a million little steps. It's not one giant leap. You don't have to buy a 50,000 dirham machine and then say, this is our sustainability aspect. It's a lot of little steps. And one of the easiest steps you can do is speaking with your suppliers and having the products that also are in line with your beliefs. And this is where Antipodes can come in.
And we're looking to do the same at Chef Middle East as well. You know, we have so many green practices coming in, and we're looking at doing so much more in terms of our sustainable investments, in terms of being able to deliver on, you know, your core beliefs within Antipodes, as well as customers like yourself as well. Here at Lowe, we're really looking to try and do as much as we possibly can in terms of our green and ethical outlook. Finish off, got a little game for you. It's a game that I like to call glass half full. Okay. So are we glass half full, or are we a bit glass half empty on these sorts of subjects. So I'm going to give you a subject, or sort of a sustainability, or a sort of environmental buzzword, or an activity, or whatever it might be, and you've got to tell me whether you're a bit glass half full on the future of how we do this, or are we a bit glass half empty, as sort of a bit negative, not so sure as to how it's going to work. Okay, so let's start with recycling. Okay, whether that's here in the UAE or whether that's back in your own countries, generally as a world topic, recycling. Are we looking a bit glass half full about it, or are we a bit glass half empty on it?
I'm definitely glass half full on that. I think there's just still a long way to go, but at least there's some signs that it's going in the right direction. That's my point.
Same. I'm a glass half full on that one. In multiple countries that I've lived in, it's progressively getting there. I think there is a lot of steps to go, as you said, but it's starting small and the scale is getting bigger, and there's a lot of pressures going on the bigger companies to show what they're actually doing. So glass half full.
I see. I'm glass half empty. I see so much litter and rubbish in oceans and all sorts of things, and I think we can be doing so much better in so many other countries. But a lot of the more Western countries, shall we say, we're really getting quite progressive about it. And so for me, that's just the thing. Okay, so public transport. People using public transport. Are we glass half full? Is that something that's going to help us with a sustainable future?
Oh. This one's a toss-up. I'm going to lean toward glass half full. I think here in the UAE, there is a bit of a stigma amongst some people that they don't want to use it because they seem it's public transport. I can just drive my car everywhere. But people are starting to realize that it's a viable option. Don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed to use public transport. You don't have to drive everywhere. But it's a glass half full, but it's just barely full.
Yeah, mine's definitely glass half empty. I think even, actually, to be brutally honest, even in New Zealand, I feel like we could be doing better with public transport and just the way in which we use it. Here in Dubai, I still feel like it's miles away from actually becoming a viable option, but I want to be totally proven wrong on that front. I think, there's a long journey.
Totally. I think we can do a lot more. But so for me, I'm a little bit glass half empty. But, we can do more carpooling and we can do more of that sort of stuff. And so I just think there's a lot more sort of chatter and conversation that we can possibly have about it.
This was a tough one.
Yeah, totally. So alternative energies. So renewable energy. Are we doing as much as we possibly can? Are we glass half full about this?
Glass half empty. I don't think we're doing everything that we possibly can on every aspect. I do think some of the right people are pushing and becoming louder. However, we're still relying way too much on fossil fuels, and I don't really foresee that changing as a global scale anytime soon.
Yeah, this is good. I'm really in the middle on this one too. I'm probably leaning towards glass half empty. Actually more glass half full. I think there's a lot going on. Well, I guess I'm used to maybe a New Zealand environment where we are predominantly renewable energy already. We've still got that extra step to go. I'm not 100% sure what it's really like here in the UAE. So there seems to be, a lot more to navigate.
I think with prices coming down in photovoltaics and that sort of thing in personal homes, I think that's something that I'd be really excited to see more of. And in terms of the balance of, renewable energy, clean energy sources compared to traditional fossil fuels, I think we're doing very, very well. So I think I'm a little bit more glass half full on that. I think, again, lots to do, right? There's lots to go. Responsible dining. Ooh. Are we glass half full on responsible dining, or are we still seeing a big transition, a big change needing to happen?
Well, a big one for you.
Just how you just said that being in New Zealand, you think renewable energies, you're more on that side. I'm definitely, with Lowe being what it is, I'm a glass half full. We're doing a lot of efforts to teach people when they come in. We're doing classes. We're working with other organizations and doing seminars and responsibility days because we like to teach. And the feedback that I get when we go and we have these conversations with people is they're so eager to learn, and they already want to know. They just don't know how to access that information sometimes. And we're happy to not only relay, but also point people in the right direction if they want to learn more, who to speak to and what to go to. So I'm definitely glass half full, but I'm in a very unique position where people will come here specifically to see the resources and what we do to be responsible dining.
Love that. I'm a glass half full as well. I see a lot more carefully considered choices being made for the restaurant table, and that has to be driven from consumers, whether that's the restaurant themselves educating in some respect. We also like to do the educational piece as well. We're quite proud of where we're from and our sustainability measures and how we do business. And it's great to see a number of other sort of sister, for other products basically around the world, also looking in that direction. Where I've obviously got good friends in the salmon industry and those sorts of places where now it's really important to give place to that particular product, and people are interested in where that particular product has come from and what measures it's been grown in and all of those other factors. So I feel like there's a good turning point there.
It's really interesting. I've seen quite a shift change in a lot of the corporate entities and a lot of the big hospitality clients, big hotel chains, really moving towards that thought process of sustainable sourcing and having a paper trail, a trace of the products of where they get them from, and as you say, sourcing more locally wherever possible. And that's it. So from my perspective, I'm seeing a lot more of that, and so I definitely think long may that continue. So I'm very much glass half full on that as well. And so in terms of glass half full or glass half empty, how do we feel about the mineral water industry? Are we glass half full on their sustainable future, or are we glass half empty on that?
I think I'm going to go with glass all the way full.
There we go.
I think there's a reason that Lowe is proud to put Antipodes on the table, and I think there's a reason we're having this conversation today. It's important that suppliers and then consumers have these conversations, and to share the knowledge is the biggest aspect of what we're doing.
And I think I touched on it earlier as well, just in terms of, look, we're super incredibly happy that we were pioneers in this space, but it's also nice to see others hopefully join us on that journey as well and be a sustainable product, whatever that might be. So yeah.
I'm very much glass half full as well, because I do believe that Antipodes Water is just a trailblazer, is certainly in the UAE right now, but equally it's really doing great things internationally, really raising the awareness of conscientious sourcing and conscientious drinking. And for me, that's something that is really exciting, and it's a great message for us to take forward.
Totally agree. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Really
you very
great
much.
talking to you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, great.